All right, we are live for the 51st episode of the
Let's Go podcast. We are super excited. We got a lot going on. Big championship HSL basketball game tonight, but everything is put on hold, and we have the opportunity to have the legend, Mr. Mike Dube on. We are super excited, and we cannot wait to see the reaction of to this podcast. It'll be very interesting, very exciting. Dave, take it away.
Yeah, so we're very excited to have Mike Dube on. He's a bit of a renaissance man. I was looking at his Instagram. I'm not sure. Sometimes you introduce to what somebody does. I'm not sure what Mike doesn't do. You know, it's hard to describe. There's a lot of different aspects of his personality, his work with people, a life coach, an entrepreneur, charity work. There's a lot that you do. But I know one common thread is, and this is something I want to get into today, is you know how important sports is. And I had a chance to talk to Mike for a couple minutes at his son's at Jake's basketball game a few weeks ago, and he was saying, Mike was talking about how sports is more important now than ever. And the first thing that comes, I don't know what Mike meant, and we'll talk more about that. But the first thing that comes to mind is just I have a 2.5-year-old son, and screens are completely dominate our life. And one thing that occurs to me is the more you can get involved in athletics and enjoy sports, it's a way to get away from the screens and lose yourself in something. And it's also healthy. But let's hear from you. Let's hear from you. Oh, and just so people know, Mike is a former Yeshiva University basketball player, 1991 to 1994. So that's an important part of his resume for our athletes. But anyway, Mike, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. My pleasure. First, I want to just start out wishing you guys the best of luck. I love what you guys are doing professionally with your leagues. It reminds me of when I left the business world at 35 and started Dube Zone. And, when you're a business owner, you've got to sweep the floors, make sure the clock is there, make sure the water's there, and everyone does their job. So when I came to a game to watch my son, you guys are running a good show, and I wish you the best of luck because when people talk to me now about getting involved in the kids and sports industry, most people I tell them to run, but it seems like you guys got a good pulse and you deliver a good product, and I saw that firsthand. So, you got a new fan in terms of myself and what you guys do.
Thanks, Mike. Why do you tell him? Why do you tell him to run?
Because most people in today's day and age are not willing to put in the work, the time, and the effort in order to be successful at anything. And the only way you can be successful at anything is to have some type of vision. As far as obviously compliment you guys and wish you the best of luck at what you guys do, far and few are successful in that industry because they're not willing to think outside of the box. And I've definitely witnessed what you guys have done with kids and adults. So I wish you the best of luck with that venture. And it seems like you're already on the road to success. One piece of a small advice I'll give you is constantly be creative and thinking outside of the box because the small things do make a difference. And like my wife always says, less is more. As far as the question regarding the sports industry, when people have approached me about wanting to get involved in that industry, I tell them that they need to have a vision. You need to be able to look where you want to be in a year from now, 6 months from now, and 2 years from now in terms of the sports industry with kids and adults, because it's never been more crucial in society that people are engaged in physical fitness, sports, team sports, everything that you guys are specializing in. So now that you already started and you're in the industry, you're on the road already, but most people never even make it to the road.
Right.
So, a couple of comments. First of all, in terms of less is more, can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I guess, as you get older and you get a little bit wiser, sometimes you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. A lot of times, people, especially in sales and business, they over complicate things. They speak too much instead of listening. And one of the most important things in life and sports is listening. And as I've gotten wiser, I don't want to say older, because that's just a state of mind, I've become a much better listener, considering that most people are problem creators. And then there are the people like myself and you guys that provide solutions. When you get a curveball, figure out how to hit it. But it's just today's generation is so whipped cream puff soft that they need a mental health day when they're not even doing anything.
It's funny actually. I was feeling all good about this basketball, our first ever HSL basketball championship tonight. I was going down a little bit of memory lane on our WhatsApp status that we have. I was posting, all the leagues that we started and our growth in the last, 10 months or so since we started this. And I don't know, I was just thinking, and I randomly posted some random comment on my status, which is I think a little similar to what you're saying. I posted, this is literally 20 minutes ago, growth is key, but finding proper pace is growth. So I don't know if that's similar to what you were saying, but it's just funny that you brought that up because I was feeling myself. I was feeling good a little bit, and I decided to write that after posting everything. But
Right. Well, it is good, the proper pace, or just staying within your lane. I
right.
tell kids all the times who I work with, when parents will send me videos of their child, whether they're the captain of the team or they're the last guy on the bench. I said, your job is not to be great in everything. Be good in everything. And kids today, their brains have a tough time processing. Well, I want to score, I want to rebound, I want to do this and that. And I said, focus on one thing a game, because then you're invaluable. If you're a great rebounder, you're going to make a big difference on the team. If you're a great teammate, whatever it is, but kids don't realize today, because it's the Steph Curry, Xbox, Madden generation, and the kids, the fundamentals are gone from the game. When I grew up playing against bigger, stronger players, it didn't make a difference because I had a heart and I stuck with the fundamentals. Today, it's almost extinct in sports.
Fundamentals are because people want the quick flat. So if I understand you correctly about Steph Curry, does he have a great shot? I mean, he scores a lot, so
The,
he's got to
be,
be doing something
best,
right.
the best shot ever, in
The
my
best
opinion.
shot, but that's it. Is that what you would say?
He's
I would say that Stephen Curry is also a leader on the court, but I look at players and athletes in a different vein than most because of the charity work that I do with Sharing Seats. I've met a lot of athletes. Stephen Curry went out of his way to hook up a blind kid in Brooklyn about 4 years ago, and now I look at Stephen Curry as he could do no wrong in terms of a person. That's the thing about these athletes. You are forgotten about so fast once you're done with the sport. What do you want to be remembered by within sports?
right.
And, I look at these athletes, they're human beings like the next. They got lucky and they got opportunity. And when kids tell me today, well, I want to be an NBA player, I said, your chances are higher you'll own an NBA team. So,
Very good.
and I do have friends who actually are part owners in teams, and that comes in handy for my charity. But sports has never become more important in the lives of children than it is today. And
So
if you're a boy, and I tell this to parents all the time, sports is the currency. If your kid cannot be within the mix, then you're going to have a lot of therapy and a lot of challenges. And then there are the fathers who are the type A personalities who want their kid to be like them. And it's like, take a step back. You're not that kid anymore. What I've seen out there, look, I see everything, but I'm also very wise in terms of I don't say anything.
Hmm.
And I'm professionally in everything I do, I call people out just like I want to be called out.
Right.
So, even watching some of the basketball games, these guys complaining about every single call. Do people not realize that if you get on the bad side of a ref, you'll never get a call your way? But you could approach a ref and say, what did I do? Or what did I do wrong? Or what could I have done differently? So people don't realize that within the game because they get so over emotional.
Yeah.
And nobody remembers the game a minute later.
Yeah.
Unless you hit a 3-pointer to bring your team to the championship.
Right. It's funny. I was
so let's
talking
go back. Yeah, go ahead.
I was talking to Dom. He's the head of our officiating. Dom does all of our softball and all of our basketball for us. Big figure in the Five-Town, Orthodox sports world. So he was telling me, he brought up to me, I think after that game, the under 5'10" Pipe Doctor versus Link Home Care game. He said it's so funny. He's like, I love when players come over to me and tell me I missed a call. If they do it, if they come over to me and they talk to me, he said there's nothing more than he loves in that. He just finds it so backwards that a player's gonna come, yelling down my throat. Does he think it's gonna help me give him the call the next play? It's what is he thinking? It was just so funny. He came over to me and told me that. He's like, Dom, you see all the time after the game, he's talking with all the players. He'll go over to every single player and talk to them about what did you think? How did you think the game was? He's so open about it. Why do you want to I guess heat of the moment, but you gotta learn yourself. Why do you want to get on the bad side of somebody who's actually looking to work with you on the court? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, it's because people think more of right now than in 5 minutes from now, and
Right.
being disrespectful, there's no place for that at all. Let alone a Jewish league, and you don't even know if the referee is not Jewish. Today's not the time, or the day, or the place for our people to be creating any more enemies in anything. And I'm very, very weary of that on all fronts. That, when you wear your yarmulke, you're representing Judaism, you're representing something bigger than you, and you need to be aware of that. I tell kids all the time, you want to do something stupid, just take your yarmulke off.
So, how do you spend most of your time now, Mike?
So most of my day is, besides, the basics, because when it comes to, what do they say in business, they say your success doesn't create your habits create your success. Routine is the key. Praying in the morning, learning, going to the gym, working, doing charity work, consulting, you name it. When you want something done, you go to a busy guy. And I thank God that my career and calling are both aligned. It's not easy to have that, where I love what I do, I'm passionate about what I do, and I try to bring the best out of the CEO who earns X amount of millions a year and all he has is money, to working with a 25-year-old failure to launch young man who came from a spoiled, entitled background, to that 6-year-old who's got ADHD and doesn't know how to play nicely in the sandbox. That's one aspect of my private coaching, life coaching business. Then there's my charity work with Sharing Seats, which there's never a dull moment. Many things
So,
come
tell our
into
audience
us.
about
Yeah,
sharing
I'm curious
seats.
about that because I see on
Yeah, tell our
Instagram, like,
audience.
it looks so cool.
Yeah.
Every single day is another event, another sports game that people are at.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I'm very fortunate that, charity work was always important to me. Even in YU, when I was doing the Beaker Column Club and playing ball and, doing things with meaning and purpose. But about 15, 16 years ago, I had a big network within the Jewish community. And, we know we're only a phone call away from anything. People have to want to follow up with that call, and you have to be willing to make the call, because nothing ventured, nothing gained. And about 16 years ago, a two men were walking home from shul on a Saturday night in Teaneck, and a rainstorm, and a pole fell down on them. They got electrocuted and died on the spot. This was tragic. The day after, somebody reached out to me and said, Mike, you got a big network. Can we do something for the kids? So I got the kids legend seats. And then the next week after, I sent them to the Met game and got a bat signed by David Wright. And then what happens in the Jewish community, and not Jewish breaking news, good news spreads fast, bad news spreads faster. And then I became a conduit for people, and I was getting calls from all over. And I used social media and Facebook to build a charity and to be a conduit for other people to do good. So I'll put a request out there, and everyone knows somebody. So you could either sponsor, you could call in a favor to somebody, but I like to go Mahadrin Mina Mahadrin. For example, tonight we're sending 7 pilots to the Nick game, 21 to 24-year-old pilots who spent 3.5 years in the Army. They're out for a week. This is the last night before they fly back. I'm sending it to the Nick game in great seats that we got sponsored by a bunch of different people in Englewood. But the next step, a buddy of mine that's going to the game with his kids, he's going to take them to the store and buy them jerseys. I'm reaching out to somebody else to try to pull some other strings for them, because I'm going to create a memory for them. And what I told them on Saturday is that after I make this happen, when you guys are up there defending your country, defending what's right, I want you to think about this night. And then as of tomorrow, it's business as usual next. But one thing that's very important, I'm going to pass the mic back to you guys, because I could talk all day about this stuff because I'm so passionate about it,
We love to hear about it. We love to hear about it.
is that one house rule I had when I started this charity with my right wing partner. We help everybody. I help non Jews the way I help Jews. And there's no length that I won't go to for somebody to help them out. But I under promise and over deliver,
My
because we
dad
get
always says
insane.
that. Yeah.
We get insane requests. And I was quoted in an article as the Jewish Santa Claus, because I have a lot of autonomy in the charity and people love what we do. There's nothing we can't do. Certain charities like Make a Wish Foundation, a guy could be dead 5 times over before they could pull the trigger. Somebody calls me up today, say they got a terminally ill kid who wants to go to a game and meet a player. I could put it out there. So that's the benefit of being able to be, proactive instead of necessarily reactive when it comes to charity work, because it's all about legacy. And what else brings you joy in this world? Helping others.
Right.
So, I see you're wearing your Elite Method shirt. So that's, if I understand, your coaching business,
Our
right?
private coaching company that focuses on building kids' confidence and self-esteem. Correct.
Okay, but you also work with adults.
Correct.
Okay, got it. So tell us about, you mentioned the millionaire CEO who all he has is money. Tell us about how you work with somebody like that.
Well, you know what? When you're dealing with people, you have to realize that everybody has a story, but most people are not even interested in hearing other people's story because they're so
Sure,
absorbed within
sure.
their own world. So when I deal with individuals, one of my jobs is to polish that individual. When I say polish, my job is not to change them. It's to polish them, to get them into good routines by focusing on physical, social, emotional, mental. But you develop a relationship. All sales and business is all about relationships and trust. And a person has to be willing to want to change one way or another, because becomes much more challenging as you get older. Kids, I've changed kids' trajectory. I've gone to weddings of kids that I worked with 15 years ago, who, when I've gone to the wedding and I say to that individual, was coach right? Yes, he was right. Like, when you become, what do they say in business? When you're good, you tell others. When they're great, they tell you.
Hmm.
And I feel great about what I do, but I'm always learning. Understand that. Once you stop learning, hand the keys back in. The lease is over. And I learn from everyone. And I treat the CEO the way I treat the janitor.
Right.
So I get impressed by people's accomplishments. That's why, looking at the business that you built up, however you guys became partners and started that, you had to have a vision. But you're always fine tuning it. The smallest little things. With kids, for example, I went to a game recently and they didn't have a scoreboard. And I said to the guy, kids look forward to this. You have to always bring out the little kid inside of you. Small little things make a difference, even sports. I went to your games. You had scorekeepers, you had electronic scoreboard, there was order. And that's why it looked good out there. The uniforms, it's the small little things that make a difference, but most people overlook the small little details. Event you do, every season, you need to look back and say, what could we have done differently?
Right.
And that's why I applaud your efforts, because I remember starting out when I left the business world at 35, after we sold our family business, and I had options and had a real passion for kids and sports. And as a kid, I was a great athlete, but I was mean to kids. So on the court, they wanted to be on my team. Off the court, they're like, wait, you were a jerk to us on the court. I don't know if I really like you. And here's a great line, which you guys should post. Sports does not build character, it reveals it.
Hmm. Now my
I'm
question
like,
is actually, I have a
Wait,
question.
wait.
Yeah, I have a
What
question
does that
on that.
mean?
That's the line of sports does not build character, reveals it. I remember growing up, not growing up, 27. I remember throughout my school years when I was in high school, college, even in yeshiva, that was a very controversial. I'm curious your take on it. We had always got into fights with my friends, like, oh, this guy's a nut job on the court, but that's not really who he is. Just when he plays sports, he gets very, that was always a
right.
very big argument with us. I'm curious your take, Mike, on what that line you just said.
Well, I'll give you my take, and I'll even quote some of the scriptures that it says that there are three ways to judge a man: kise, kaso, and kuso. Kise, how he acts in his house. Kise, kaso, when he's angry, and when he's drinking. But I added in another one. You might not see it in Art Scroll. It's kador. When you play
Oh,
ball.
ball. Oh,
You
very
can
good.
now when we're talking about that cliche about sports as a build character reveals it. When you win, everybody's happy. How do you deal with the losing? Do you consider yourself a loser, or I lost the game? I'm changing the game. Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, not lose, because that's where mindset comes in. I was a hothead in every sport that I played, and I'm still competitive and play hard. But thank God I have a son who's more talented than me and a better version of me. And that's what you want as a parent. So getting back to your
Yeah.
question, it's normal to be passionate about playing sports. You know, you could either be in the game or you could be watching the game. And the key is demonstrating some self-control even after the game. And it's not easy when you put 100% in. And that's what I tell people, especially kids. If you put 100% in anything you do, you can't lose. The challenge is that kid misses a shot. He looks over at the coach. The kid's father screaming from the stands, and the kid's like, Dad, shut up. So I'm the guy that has to tell people that all of the time because another great statistic, in case you have any statisticians here,
Yep.
by age 10, kids, you will do 75% of the hanging out with your kids. By age 18, you will do 90% of the hanging out with your kids. After age 18, the 10% was how you did from 1 to 18. That means if you put too much pressure on your child and in their head, they were always thinking about pleasing you and doing what made you happy, you will not have a relationship after that.
So, Mike, let me ask you a question. You're obviously a very, very driven guy. You could see the passion. You could see, different businesses, different charity stuff that you do. It comes through the screen. How do you, me and Avi met Jake. We know him a little bit. He's a lot more relaxed than you, by the way. But
Thank
the
God.
question, how do you not, how do you not put too much pressure on your child? You care more about your child than anything in the world, right?
Your greatest asset in the world, correct.
Yeah.
So I am very, very fortunate that I married up. And my wife, who also does life coaching, we're very aligned in our parenting. If you saw Jake's trajectory, he was always a good kid, very friendly, good looking kid. Just he was growing up, and a child's job is not to be in the shadow of their father. You want them to be better than you. Jake was a decent high school player and became great after college. And you want that enjoyment for the rest of your life. I love playing with him, but when he's like, Dad, I want to play a one-on-one, I said, you win. You win. So last week when he had a league game in the city and he had a rough game, and I could show him the videos, I said, the first thing you should do after that game is shoot around the gym. And that's what he did. And he came in yesterday, had a strong game, and then you forgot about the last game. Now I get to enjoy a championship game. So sports is life. It's about a work ethic. It's about discipline. It's about working with people. It's about being on a team. But a person's value on a team is you bring what you can to your team. And good teammates are very important because this is all life lessons. So, as far as Jake, a parent has to put a fire under their kid one way or another. But the best thing a parent could do is lead by example. Kids do what they see, not what you say. So these parents that were athletes in high school and college and their kids are not that way, you've got to ask yourself, how do I push without pushing too hard? Because as we know, you guys are a little younger than me, but unless a person wants to do it, they're not going to do it. And one of the things that we do professionally is that we motivate, we inspire, and in today's generation, kids have never needed it more. Think about who their heroes are out there. It makes me ill when they look at these rappers and athletes. You know, one of my heroes is Rabbi Lookstein, the head of Ramaz. I saw him at a funeral the other day for a 50-year-old guy, and I'm looking this polished, distinguished, brilliant 92-year-old man who said words of Torah that I absorbed every single piece of it. Heroes, role models. Kids are lacking that today, and a lot of parents don't want to be role models to their kids.
Why is that?
I think because society, peer pressure, society does not want you to succeed. In a world of 8 billion people, I tell kids all the time, who do you want to be? You want to be authentic, you want to be true to yourself, and that takes a lot of work. if you knew me at 10 years old, rather, my parents got divorced and I thought the world was ending. I didn't know my hands from my leg, but I had a certain work ethic. I had a twin brother, and I would not stop until I made it there, whatever there is.
Did you realize at the time when you were 10 that it felt like your life was ending? Or you
It
only
did
realized?
because when you're 10 years old, your worlds are so small. You can't think macro. You're thinking micro, and it's like, why am I the only person? And I was one of three boys. Why am I the only person who's sees his dad twice a week? My dad had passed 3.5 years ago, and never been closer to him because I started Daf Yomi. But, resiliency and grit, these are things that were taken out of the dictionary the last 4 years. No participation trophies. I go down to when parents ask me about that, I said, no, kids have to fail. That's the only way that you learn. And giving a participation trophy for the guy in second place does not do him any justice. And especially today's day and age where everything is so backwards. God willing, in next month things are going to start changing for the better, not only for our people but for the world. And figuring, what do they say, that your job in life is to figure out why you're here. Your goal is to give it away.
Mm.
So I got some real insight, but I also surround myself with great people. And you want to be good, surround yourself with good people. They say that your success in life is based on the 5 people that you're closest with. You want to see where you're going to be, your trajectory, look at your 5 closest friends. My network is much bigger than that, but I value friendship. I value loyalty, which is another word that is not even, that's extinct, loyalty. But, you know, you get older, you get wiser, and every day is a gift. That's why when you want to get something done, you go to a busy guy. You can't rest on your laurels. I'm sending those guys tonight to the game, and while I'm at a game watching 2 of my clients in the city, I'll have pure joy knowing that these guys are going to have the night of their life, because in 3 months from now, when they're flying their Black Hawk planes, their helicopters on some mission, I want them to remember tonight. How do you make an impact? What do they
What
say
are
in
you?
business? Yeah.
What are your clients playing in the city tonight?
It's a Ramaz game. It's some of the kids on the JV that I work with, 2 of the kids. I'll keep them nameless as I do a lot. And each one is different. And I'm looking forward to them tonight to getting their court time. One of the kids, as a matter of fact, had a starting role and he lost it. So I spoke to him last night. I said, use it how you want now. What are you going to do to earn that back?
Right. Who are they playing?
I think they're playing MTA.
MTA. I was gonna say MTA is in YU, so that would make sense. Where's Ramaz
Yes.
located?
In the city.
Oh, it is. So that's why I wasn't sure. I was for sure MTA because I know they're. That's what I thought. They're both in the city. Very cool.
Yes.
I actually have a question. Yeah, Dave, I don't know
Sure.
if you have any more on this before I move on. I had a question. So, this actually went a little bit viral. Dave, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. A couple years ago, Kyrie Irving, there's a whole situation with him and, his quotes and certain things that he read and anti-Semitic comments that he's made. And Dave, are you familiar with this, by the way, or is this new to you? You are.
Yes. And
You were
I
gonna
posted about this.
All right. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So notice I'm, Mr. Dube here. Mike was, part of a group. I think it was 7 people, 6 or 7 people who sat
Correct.
courtside with
7 people.
7 people. How many?
$36,000 investment.
Wow. Sat courtside with fight anti-Semitism shirts, and it made a lot of news, not just in the Jewish papers, but all over the media and social media and everywhere. I'm curious how that came about. What led you to that? Like, I obviously have a passion for Judaism and for against anti-Semitism. So I'm just curious for you to tell us and the audience a little bit about that as well.
Sure. One of our donors had a suite for each game, and that gave them access also to some courtside seats. So if you remember 3.5 years ago, I think there was some pandemic going on. I think it was sounded like a beer or something like that. Maybe Corona. I don't know. People say it's coming back in the movie theaters in 2 months. But, there was, in the metropolitan area, you have a platform. And one of the guys who was a donor had saw that Kyrie Irving, who has more Instagram followers than Jewish people, than 16 million Jews that exist out there, who was a very talented, misguided basketball player, had incited hate in a movie. He incited hate.
Right.
So one of the guys who I'm close with said, well, we know a guy that has courtside seats. He's got courtside seats. Let's make a stink, but let's do it in a respectful, dignified way. Somebody went out, got Fight Anti-Semitism t-shirts, went to the game, and we wore it on the court for that game. I knew right at the half when we were wearing our yarmulkes and Fight Anti-Semitism t-shirts that when 8 reporters came over me at halftime, I knew this was making news, and I was getting text messages left and right. Anyway, one reporter came over to me, and he was a mensch about it, and I said, you will get the first story. After the game ended, I had about 250 text messages, and we were being swarmed by reporters. And I did every report. I did every interview. After that, I had to hire my buddy's PR firm because for the next 3 weeks, my life changed. TV, news, reporters, it was too much. It was too much, but my message was heard loud and clear. You have to fight hate with love. And the incredible thing about that experience is that we impacted $1 billion industry and we did not say one word. Talk about a marketing class.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's absolutely phenomenal. I'm actually curious. I know there's a little video going around of Kyrie Irving, that went around him approaching you guys, saying some words. What exactly did he tell you guys? Was it a long conversation? Was it short? I know he
Sure.
chatted about it after the game.
So it's amazing how the media has a way of changing everything, especially the truth. I had been in the back actually eating a few lamb chops because we had some kosher food there. So I was not there for that 2 or 3 minutes. My son was there, and Kyrie Irving was respectful. He said something along the lines of, I support you guys, and there was nothing negative. Of course, the media created negative
Right.
everything out of it. I was wearing a watch that night that couldn't have been more than $250, and some troller on the internet was saying, look at this Jewish guy with this $250,000 watch. So it was amazing what came from that, what came out of that. Then we went to an ADL convention and I spoke at different schools, and the message was universal that you fight hate with love, not hate. But we made our impact. Kyrie Irving's still doing his thing. But these athletes have a big platform, and people are so lost that they'll grab onto any low hanging fruit. You think that's anti Semitism? Now you've got anti Semitism.
Right. Were there
So what do
any?
they say? Simonova, something Simonova, something Labanan.
Yeah.
Things that happened before are usually a sign. But that's so old school ago. But we made an impact. And that's all you could ask for. So, and Kyrie Irving, one of his main coaches in AAU was a Jewish guy, a very, very well-known guy. I forgot his name from like Elizabeth. So Kyrie Irving is connected on all those fronts. I don't want to go into what his, philosophies are. But the reality is that we're not the problem. We're not the challenge. We're 16 million people. And yet everyone has a challenge with us because you know what? Everybody hates a winner.
Yep.
And Jews, according to history, we should have been wiped out. But meanwhile, everyone that's tried to take us out is no longer around. We're resilient and we get stronger. October 7th changed our lives for the rest of history. Look what we've accomplished in the last year and change, and we're coming back stronger than ever. And now people are starting to wake up and realize that Jews were all about giving and living. We're about creating, not about destroying. And it's unfortunate that the media there's such hypocrisy that people don't believe anything that they read or see anymore, or even hear. And it's all about the next generation. The world loves weak, need Jews. They love it. But that is no longer. That is no longer. We are strong when we're united. And think about the chesed that came out of our community since this. It is incredible to be a part of it. And the same way, if a Muslim called me up today and had a request for a sick kid, I'd be there for them in a second. In a second. That's the way that I am. And that's how you bring light to the world. We're creating God's image. Our job is to shine light on the world, even when it's dark. And this world is dark now, but it gives people opportunities to become leaders. You're seeing people in younger generations stepping up, and that's really what it's about. You want to leave anything you do better than when it started. And it's the first time I saw this type of hatred and anti-Semitism, because if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semitic. And I don't need, when it comes to politics, you can convince me. I'm cool. You can convince me, no problem. But I'm steadfast in knowing what I know and knowing what I don't know.
All right. All right. Well, we got to wrap up here. Mike, thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy, have a lot going on. We'll spread the message. We'll cut, I have a couple of things from this pod that I'll cut clips of. A lot of important things that you mentioned today.
I have one request for you guys.
Yes.
Please.
All right. Because after this podcast is over and you go back to your life and you're editing and then you'll put it out there and I'm sure we'll get some views and stuff like that. And obviously not waiting around to see how many likes there are because that's all artificial. If you guys in your league ever run into a child who lost a parent, who's going through a tough time and needs a pick me up, you guys reach out to me and that way we could collaborate on that. Because
100%.
as I'm speaking to you guys now, we just had a post yesterday. One of my boys, who's obviously very connected within the sports industry, even on the rec level, Sharing Seed sponsored a team, Level Up. It's for third and fourth graders, an AAU team, very, very talented. And I spoke to the kids last week, and I said, don't forget, every time you go out there, you're wearing that Sharing Seeds logo. Giving up is not an option. So let's pay it forward. You can reach out to me individually, and that's how I know that we're creating some synergy for the future when you run into that situation. A kid lost a father. We need to send them a jersey, a mother, whatever it is. So now I'm putting the ball in your court.
That's awesome.
Okay, and just so our audience knows, Mike is very busy, but responds to all calls and texts fairly quickly, I would say. I really appreciate it. And, I'll let our audience know we're actually supposed to do this Monday. Unfortunately, Mike had a funeral that he had to go to, and I didn't want to be annoying after and say, oh, can we do it tomorrow? Can we do it the next day? And Mike reached out and said, okay, when can we do it? Very proactive in coming on. So he's really looking to help out and, as you mentioned, bring a shine a light to the world. So thank you so much, Mike. And we'll definitely reach out again.
Yeah, for sure.
And look forward to talking. And, hopefully there's nobody who needs, well, there will be somebody who needs Sharing Seats or some other services. So we'll most likely be in touch. So thanks a lot, Mike.
That will be a layup. But thank you guys so much for your time. And off the podcast, if you ever need any insight or advice, because I know that industry so well, please feel free to reach out to me because the first 5 minutes is free.
And then it's $100 a minute.
Yeah, that's for about 10 minutes, but we're good, man. It's not about the money.
Thanks a lot, Mike. We appreciate you coming on and all the advice.
All right, guys. Best of luck. Thank you so much.